Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Full Potential Show. I'm James Rick, and this is your number one non-boring source for personal development. And today on the line, we have James Goi Jr. He is an author, a speaker, and a coach. And today, we're going to talk about how to attract money using mind power. You can learn more about James Goi Jr. at jamesgoi, Jr.com. That's with JamesGoijr.com. And an interesting point is he was a top 20 friend on Oprah's MySpace page for over 7 months. And if you hang on to the end of the interview, you're going to learn the mind power way to attract money. It's a free gift to you, an audio and written transcript that you can have if you just hang on to the end of the interview. James, thank you so much for being on today's Full Potential Show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. This is it's great.
It's great to have you on. It's an interesting thing here. How to attract money using mind power. I'm sure everybody wants to learn how to do that.
Especially in this economy, I think people, even who at one time were not open to this type of a subject, all of a sudden I'm finding they're open.
Well, when you get hungry, you're open to eat anything, right?
Exactly.
Now, I want to hit this from a couple of sides, because obviously you're going to have the immediate skeptics that come up. Always like to keep it very positive on the show, but I also like to address sort of the critics behind the scenes a little bit. And there's going to be people that say, come on, attracting money using mind power, is that for real? And I want to get your take on that, because I'm sure you're aware of that too. So what makes this so true versus, there's been a lot of criticism about The Secret and stuff. Okay, woo-woo, use your mind, you're going to attract money. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what I teach in the book really is a metaphysical way or a mind power way to attract money. And my book is different than others in that it's so short. You can actually read it in a sitting or two. Yet I quote 160 other separate books in this book. So what I'm telling people is I didn't make this stuff up. I didn't originate it. These types of teachings have been around for hundreds and indeed thousands of years. They're in all of the major religions and all of the self-help and personal improvement books right on up to present day. And all I've done really is I've taken all of this information, I've condensed it, and I have put it into a format specifically for the purpose of attracting money. So I've really streamlined that particular, way of doing things.
And so when somebody is not attracting money in their life, is it the result of mind power, or is mind power just one of the ways to attract money?
Mind power, really, anything that happens in life, good or bad, monetary or otherwise, has to do with mind power. That's what I like people to really understand.
How do you define mind power?
We think and we feel, and we have images within our minds on a consistent, constant basis. That is mind power. When we think, we're exerting mind power. When we feel or have emotions, that's mind power. And any images or concepts or ideas, it's all mind power, because everything that we see in the material world springs forth from the mental realm first. In other words, the physical is first spiritual. And we learn this if we even take a brief glance at the findings of quantum physics, for instance. So everything is mind power. And if we're not attracting money, then we are repelling money. There's very few people who just, stay neutral or stay at one point. It's going to be one or the other.
All right, so what are some top ways that we can start using our mind to attract this money?
Well, one of the first things, the first chapter in the book is on desire. And people need to actually desire to have more money. Now, anyone can say, well, of course I want more money. But we have to move from...
I was going to say, James, there's a lot of people going, oh, I got the desire, buddy. Trust me.
Right. Well, they think they do. And they say they do. But how strong is it really? In other words, what have they been doing in the last month or in the last year to get more money? If they had a strong enough desire, even without understanding mind power, they'd probably be getting more money. They probably would have found a way to get a raise at work or started a business or found a way to increase their own income at their own business. So when I speak of desire, I speak of building desire strong enough so that it actually gets you to act towards those things that you want. And then the second chapter of the book, and indeed an important step, is that you want to come to the point where you actually believe that you can have the money. And see, the desire and the belief will feed each other. Because if you don't desire to have a lot of money, then you're not going to sit around believing that you can have it, because you won't even think in such terms. But by the same token, if you start to believe that you really have the power to have more money and a lot more money, if you start to believe that, that in itself is going to help to increase your desire, because now you know much more is possible for you. So if you can see, it's kind of a
cyclical
closed
process.
Yeah, one feeds the other, and then it progresses from there into expectation, for instance. You know, when we expect something to happen, it's just a whole new level of belief, because we can believe just about anything. We can believe things that aren't true and never will be true, but when we expect something, it means that we absolutely believe that it will be true at some point in the future. And all of these are aspects of mind power. It's what all the great, mind power teachers, whether it's Napoleon Hill, Jesus, Wallace D. Wattles, they've all taught basically the same thing. And so, and again, all I've done is tailor all of this information specifically for attracting money. And the reason I did that is because so many people I would find in, teaching over the years and things, even though they understood metaphysics and even though they had a grasp on these principles, these concepts, these techniques, and had used them in various areas of their lives, they had a great relationship, the home of their dreams, whatever, universally, people seem to have a problem applying these techniques to the specific task of attracting money. And one of the problems is that they just haven't been specific enough in their thinking and application of the metaphysical laws and the mind power techniques. And so that's what I've done. I've made this really quite simple.
Well, and one of the things that I really like that you've done here, James, is that you've made a distinction about taking action. And I think that's missing from a lot of this mind power stuff. But then what I like that's very practical about the three ways that you've really described in being able to take this action is desire and belief, first of all, feed each other and create this force of expectation. The expectation that not only can I have this, but I will have this, and I'm going to take the actions to make it so. So you've got this desire belief foundation that leads to expectation, which leads ultimately to taking action and creating the results that you believed and that you desired all along. And I really like how you've kind of tied all that together, which, again, I think is a very, very practical approach to using mind power. So I like it a lot. The question that I have for you, and I just want to throw this out there because I always think big picture about these things, especially when it comes to money. One of the things that I say is a truth should be universally true. So if it applies to you, it should apply to everybody if that's the truth, the law of gravity and everything. So I like this concept. I do think that it can really help a lot of people get where they need to financially. My question for you is this process universally true? Is it possible that if everybody desires strongly enough to take action, believes strongly enough to expect, and expect strongly enough to encourage that action, could they all attract money, and is it infinite?
Certainly. Anyone of sound mind, in other words, they are in touch with reality, material reality as we know it, and they can think clearly, they can understand, let's say they can understand the words that you and I are having back and forth right now. Anyone can do this. There's no age barriers or prerequisites for training, educational, background. None of that really matters. You need to be able to understand the concepts and apply them by way of the techniques. And as far as money, money is really, what is it in modern society? It's just an idea. Money can be created in trillions of dollars at the stroke of a pen. Mm-hmm. A lot of the money, people think, we have all this money out there, but you know what? So much of it is not actually coins and bills. It's just, zeros and ones on a computer screen. It's just entries on a balance sheet. It's not even real. Money is just an idea. It's a way of keeping track of things. And, depending on how each person used their minds, it will show how many of those numbers they have in their own bank account. I mean, nobody is sitting on $10 million cash in their house. And indeed, if you have $10 million in the bank and you go down there to try to withdraw it, you will have a rude, awakening and surprise. They don't have the money. Mm-hmm. They don't have the money. You can't get it all at once like that. Not in cash.
So I like that you've gone there too, talking about how the current money structure works and how, at the wave of a pen, they can literally add zeros to your bank account, unfortunately. And I want to get your thoughts on this too before we wrap up the show and we talk about some specific ways to create the desires and the beliefs, because I think I want to really leave people with that. But I do want to bring up the point of, unfortunately, the majority of this power is in the hands of a very small few at the highest level. And everybody's watching and listening right now, just follow us here. At the highest level of the central banks and the Federal Reserve, it's really concentrated. And so when I look at the universal truth of attracting this money supply, if we were friends with them and at the wave of a hand they said, you know what, you believe strongly enough, you expected it enough, you took enough action, I'm going to add a couple of zeros to your bank account. Unfortunately, they don't do that. So just to play the other side of the coin here with you, James, and by the way, like I said, I fully support what you're saying, and it is a very practical approach to using mind power. So with that said, playing devil's advocate on the other side, there is this limited supply, it seems, in the sense of how much we have access to. And I could be totally off base with this, and that's why I want to get your point of view on it. But it seems that if there is this great supply out there, why is it that so many good people are struggling? And is this mind power approach that you have the way to get out of that struggle? Or do we need to change the system itself before that can happen? What are your thoughts?
This type of thing comes up, and my thoughts on as far as changing the system, I don't really have any. I don't think that it's wise or very probable that any of us individually are going to change the system. The system is what it is right now, and so I tell people, you've got children that need to eat tonight. You've got a mortgage payment, it's got to be paid 2 weeks from now. Rent, whatever, car payments. So understand what the system is. And the system may not be fair. A lot of people say that. But learn to work within the system. And for all practical purposes, what we as individuals can attract to ourselves is unlimited. I mean, look at a Bill Gates who starts in his garage. Okay, look at an Oprah Winfrey. These people, and there's so many other examples. They're worth literally billions of dollars. And most people don't need that much. Most people I deal with, they're not even thinking that far. But if they could have $1 million or $5 million or maybe $100 million or several $100 million, there's no limit to it. I mean, you can attract as much money as you want to attract. Now, at the top levels, they're calling the shots, they're running the game. Still, in this country at this time, the system is set up so that you can make and attract a whole lot of money. Anyone can buy a lottery ticket still and win literally hundreds of millions of dollars this week, next week. So the money is there and the system is in play that individuals can attract it to themselves. Now it's just applying your mind power so that you can attract your fair share. And what your fair share is what you can conceive of and what you can make good use of.
James, thank you so much for addressing it so eloquently. I really think that you've crystallized for me the approach of both a practical understanding of the system itself and from an individual level saying, I'm going to work within this system to do as much as I can, to attract as much as I can, so that maybe I can start to exert more influence on the system. And instead of just kind of believing, oh, well, this is the system and it's unfair. Because like you said, going back to the desire and the belief, that belief could hold you back from working within the system to be so empowered that you could influence the system itself.
Certainly. And, having negative thoughts about the system and indeed fighting the system can actually, if we get into deeper levels of metaphysical and even quantum physical understanding, we can actually feed that situation. We can actually make it worse, because that which we resist persists, and we give might to what we fight. So we need to be careful in all of that. It's from, I believe, empowering people to be abundant and to attract into their own lives, and therefore be an example to all those around them, to financially help in one way or another, directly or indirectly, all of those within their sphere of influence. This is how we will change the system from the ground up within our own minds. And now, certain people do have to challenge the system and fight it, but we know who we are, and those of us who are not that, we know that also. So everyone has their role to play. Most people that I'm dealing with and teaching and who are studying my book, they're the ones that have families that need to eat, and they're not trying to change the system. They're trying to survive and thrive regardless of or in spite of the system.
James, well said, my friend. Okay, so now let's talk about, we've set the foundation, we've set the stage for this. What can somebody do? What are some practical steps before we wrap up the show that they can do to really ramp up their desire and start creating the kind of beliefs that are going to lead to the expectations and actions that are going to take them there so they can start thriving within the current system?
Well, first, understand that, how much money you do or do not attract is going to be the result of what I call your money mindset. And that is all of your thoughts and your feelings and the images you hold within your mind that have anything at all to do in any way, shape, or form with money, whether it's your money, the economy at large, business cycles, the government, it doesn't matter. You want all of your thoughts, feelings, and images to be hopefully positive to the degree you can make it so, and certainly not negative. And if you can't be positive, then at least neutral. In other words, you understand that the banking system is doing this and that, and you don't like it, but you don't get negative about it. So you really want all of your thoughts, feelings, and images about money to be positive. This will create a positive financial or monetary aura around you, which will help repel negative circumstances and attract positive circumstances. And then there are just so many techniques. One that I call speak as if. And that is that you always want to speak as if those financial eventualities you want to see come about either are now or will be reality. People don't understand how powerful, in general, how powerful our words are. All of the great mind power teachers have known this. When we speak, we not only, expose how we think, but we reinforce how we think, because our words come out of our mouths, but they go back in our ears. So they come from our minds, they go back into our mind, and they reinforce it. And, this is a metaphysical book, of course. There's practical things that people wouldn't think of. I have a chapter on organization. Your environment. And I have another chapter on environment. The organization and the state of your environment, understand, it's a reflection of your consciousness. If your house is dirty, or if your desk at work or the inside of your car is, disorganized, that is your thoughts. Okay? Your thoughts give rise to your environment. You are attracted to and you create an environment which is in line with your thoughts. Now, anyone can organize their house. They can, clean up their desk. They can get work in order. And when you start developing your money mindset, as I teach you to do, you will naturally find yourself doing those things because your environment will start to reflect this new, more organized consciousness. And mind power is all about organizing your thoughts. But here's a really amazing thing that some people overlook, and that is that it works both ways. If you simply start to organize your environment, clean it up, streamline, get rid of stuff you don't need.
It helps you organize your mental space.
Right. As a natural consequence, you will start to think more clearly because the environment you're in is more clear. It's more precise. It's more, directed towards goals and towards a certain operational system. Because we are our environment, and our environment is us. So it's a practical way to approach this from both angles, really. And then, just the standard metaphysical techniques of affirmation and visualization. Most people in this field have heard of these. Use them specifically for attracting money, and they'll work. Most people, tend to shy away from using it for money. They think money is not spiritual, or if you have too much, someone else has less, or rich people are bad. These are all just, opinions. They're not facts. get past those and apply the metaphysical techniques that you know, learn new ones if you don't know them, specifically towards the the process of attracting money, and it works. It works every time.
James, it's clear you understand these things on a very deep level. I'm going to encourage everybody to check out your website, jamesgoijr.com. Pick up the book, How to Attract Money Using Your Mind Power. There's obviously a much deeper source of techniques and things there in the book. And just to run down what we talked about here today on the show, really, really well done in approaching sort of the big system and then the practical approach for individuals. The desires and beliefs that you hold are going to ultimately determine the actions and expectations that you have and you bring out into the real world. You talk about how thoughts really can change your environment, and changing your environment can really change your thoughts, and that becomes sort of its own feedback loop. Also, how speaking can go back into your brain as a feedback loop, and that's why it's important, so important, that we are mindful of the things that we say and the things that we think if we really want to change our environment. And that's why little tools like affirmations and visualizations are so important to create that repetitive change that we want in our environment, because we're changing our mental states about it. So some really, really great tips. James, where can people pick up a copy of your book? Is it just there on the website, or is there anywhere else they can pick up a copy of your book?
Right. The book is basically available anywhere online where new books are sold, from Amazon, Borders, Barnes & Noble. And it may not be on the shelf at your local bookstore, but if you call Borders, you can order from them. So basically anywhere that new books are sold.
All right, and I know we've got this free gift that everybody's itching to get here, and it's the Mind Power Way to Attract Money. It's an audio and written transcript. I know I want to get my hands on it too, James. Where can they go?
Okay, just go to my website. It's www.jamesgoijr.com, and simply sign up for my e-zine. My monthly e-zine is called the Mind Power and Money e-zine, and we discuss these types of principles every month. You can unsubscribe at any time, but when you subscribe, you will get that audio and written transcript of the Mind Power Way to Attract Money.
Okay, that's jamesgoijr.com, JAMESGOIJR.com. Sign up for the e-zine, and you will get the Mind Power Way to Attract Money. It's an audio and written transcript. And James, thank you so much for sharing your insights today here on the Full Potential Show. You have been just a clarifying person yourself, just in this realm that is usually, I think, so foggy sometimes with this mind power attracting money stuff. So I think you've really cut through a lot of the clutter for myself and for everybody that's watching and listening right now.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. You're good at what you do, I'll tell you. So I think we have a good interview here for people to gain some benefit from. Awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, James. And I'm encouraging everybody at the end of this interview, go check out jamesgoijr.com, sign up for his e-zine. And James, thank you again for being on the show.
And thank you.
Everybody who's watching and listening, one more thing, be sure and like the Full Potential Show and sign up for our newsletter so that you can get more great insights from people like James Goi Jr. and more freebies that you'll only find right here on the Full Potential Show. Thanks again, James. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Well, that concludes this week's episode of the Full Potential Show, your #1 non-boring source for personal development. I'm James Rick, and if you want to get more positive programming for your brain absolutely free on a weekly basis, just visit fullpotential.com.
If you like the Full Potential Show, you're going to love the Full Potential Club. What would you like most as a Full Potential Club member? Be 2 to 3 times more productive? Do what you're passionate about? Have more energy? Reduce your work hours? Travel the world? Enjoy an amazing lifestyle on a frugal budget? What if you could do them all? James Rick has been there and done it in ways that few people have. For anyone serious about taking their life or business to the next level, you know you've got to do more than just watch. You've got to do. Join James Rick and other like-minded people for an incredible $10 a month at fullpotential.com/club. Be educated. Be empowered. Be the best version of you. fullpotential.com/club. Try it free for 30 days.